So the UFC 308 press conference just happened about 2 to 3 hours ago. Um, so let's break it down. This is my overall initial reaction. First, I'll give you the stuff off the top of my head, and then I wrote some notes down, so I'll read through those and see if I missed anything. But overall, out of all the UFC press conferences, this wasn't really bad. You know, it wasn't exactly boring. It wasn't exactly overly entertaining, but stuff happened. There were your initial language barriers throughout, basically, because some people spoke Russian, a lot of Italian, not Italian, but a lot of Spanish. I think some Romanian. All these different languages were spoken. And my main beef is really with the English translator at this press conference. That person, whoever it was, should definitely be fired. I think most of the stuff that was said in many different various languages was not translated. I understand it's hard to get the English in there because the fighter and the interviewer are going back and forth, not really giving room for the English translator to speak up and translate. But that person has to speak up and translate. It doesn't really matter who's interjecting. You have to let the English audience know and the English speaking president of the fucking UFC know what is being said, because it was very confusing throughout that press conference trying to understand what different people were saying. Like, there was a moment where there were a whole bunch of Georgian fans that came up and said a bunch of stuff to Ilia. None of it was translated. So, it's just really trying to get the right person who speaks English to interject and let all the English speakers know what is being said. In terms of fighters who broke out, and fighters who basically did their big thing, their big one during the press conference, I think overall it was Ilia who was the star of the show. He pushed a lot of confrontation, and he had some pretty good trash talk throughout it. Second up, I probably would say Khamzat. He had a very funny bit in there when there was an Australian reporter that came up and had a mini back and forth with Robert Whitaker about Australian fans staying up and what Robert thinks the Australian fans should do come fight night to make sure they have the most energy to watch his performance. And Khamzat interjected and said it's going to be a bad morning because the Australian fans would have to tune in Sunday morning because the fight's in Abu Dhabi. And Khamzat said it was going to be a bad morning for them. So I like how he interjected there and said something funny and cool. It was funny and cool and very Chad-like. So yeah, and that's all the stuff off the top of my head. So now we can go through my notes and let's see, other stuff. Oh yeah, the big thing I had, this also kind of frustrated me, is how the small amount of fucking reporters up there that spoke English. I mean, there had to have been 3 or 4 Spanish men that came up and asked Dana White the same fucking question. Literally, most of the time throughout that fucking press conference, it's like, Dana, excuse me, Dana, UFC Madrid, UFC Spain, Dana, when? Dana, yes, no? Dana, Spain, yes, Dana? It's the same shit happened 3 or 4 times. One guy comes up, asks Dana. The first guy was a little rude. If I was Dana, I would have had a little back and forth with him and told him to fucking have some respect, because he seemed a little rude. He had a little tone in his voice. He was talking to Max real weird. It was just a real weird guy. But he asked the question. Dana answered it and said, it most likely will happen. We're in talks. And then the reporter's still going to fucking go, yes or no, Dana? Yes or no? He's telling you what the fuck is going to happen. They're talking. There's a lot of shit they have to do. They got to get passports. They got to talk to government officials. They got to make sure the venue's, well secured and at a good location. It's a lot of stuff that comes, with trying to bring the UFC to different countries. So have some fucking patience, and we'll get to your country of origin or land of origin sometime soon. I think that's what Dana could have just said to all of them, and then kind of canceled that question and told reporters to not ask that question, going forward for sake of time, because again, 3 or 4 reporters came up, Spanish reporters, asking them the same shit. But then, UFC Spain. When Dana? UFC Spain? Donde Dana? UFC? Spain? You know, Ilia's enjoying that shit because he's Spanish, so he's like, you know, you know, yeah, Dana, when Dana? When we going to go to Spain, Dana? All that Ilia Taporia shit he does. But yeah, like I said, Ilia was the star of the show. He was the star of the press conference. Max Holloway pissed me the fuck off. Didn't really say much. He did the same shit he's always been doing during this lead up to the fight. I respect Max Holloway's fighting, and I am a fan of Max Holloway. But when it comes to trash talk and, you know, entertainment in the press conferences, it is really 0 to none. Every single response he had was, "We'll find out. We'll find out. October 26th, bud. We'll find out. October 26th, bud. We'll find out. Yeah, Ilia, we'll find out." Like, Ilia had to call him out on that shit, and like that's what I love about Ilia's performance at this press conference. He really was a star of the show. He actually straight up called Max out on what he was saying during the press conference. He literally called him, "Max will find out Holloway," like midway through the press conference. I like that shit. I like that. That's star shit. That's entertaining. That's entertaining fighter shit. Okay, like Max Holloway was pissing me off with that shit, man. All the time, it's the same shit. Tune in, bod. Tune in, bod. We'll find out, bod. We'll find out. October 26th, we'll find out. Khamzat, like I said, he was entertaining. He was fun. Like, it wasn't like, you know, and he was even asked the question that we all have in our minds leading up to this fight: is Khamzat the same Khamzat we've seen for many years now? And you know, I feel like the answer is still up in the air, because Khamzat had some entertaining moments. Like I said, he had that interjection talking about it's going to be a bad night. You know, he had that the Khamzat like low tone, you know, but we'll find out, man. We're gonna find out, man. You know, I know he does that. Like, we gonna find out, man. I don't know, man. We're gonna see, man. I am same Khamzat, man. All that shit he does, you know, like he's still there, but I don't know if he's there fighting wise. So we just have to see, because he still seems a little too chill. I don't really see the same wild, scary, ogreish Khamzat energy. So we just have to wait and see, man. It's scary. Like I said, I'm starting to doubt him winning this fight more and more as the fight draws closer. But I'm still going with Khamzat. So yeah. And again, like I don't even mean to glaze Ilia with his performance, but he did really, really well in this press conference. So well that he did bring some malice out of Max. I think Max was getting ready to say the same shit that he was saying throughout the whole press conference. We're gonna find out October 26th, bud. We're gonna find out. We will find out. Tune in. And Ilia kept interrupting him to the point where Max looked over to Ilia and gave Ilia like a pretty angry, you know, look, like an upset look, and saying like, you know, what was he saying? Like, don't stop interrupting me. Let's be adults about this. All that shit like that, you know. Max kept saying that, and I felt like that's Ilia getting into Max's head, you know. Like, Max has been trying his hardest to be all chill and we'll find out and tune in. But I felt like in that moment, Ilia got into his head a bit in that moment. So props to Ilia for that, man. I'm telling you. He's moving smart. He moves really smart. So I'm just going through making sure I tell you guys everything I had for this. Oh yeah, there's also, we can't forget the wild ass moment during this press conference where a fighter actually asks for a Dana White Contender Series contract. He actually asked for a contract. He comes up, I guess he pretended to be a reporter or something, and he asked for a contract straight up to Dana during the press conference, and he got it. Dana invited him up the stage. The guy was so happy. He was jumping over fences, jumping over security right to get to Dana, and he got to him, and Dana showed him where to talk business, and I guess they're talking business. So hey, you got to go for it. I guess that's a lesson to all the upcoming fighters. Just go for it. Try to get into UFC press conferences and just beg Dana for stuff, because I feel like, you know, I put this in this shit. Dana be doing the wildest shit when people ask him to do stuff. So unless he comes out and says he will not be doing it, if you ask Dana ahead of time, or like, you know, ask Dana when he hasn't said he wouldn't do something, he'll likely do it. You know, look at the UFC 300 with the 300K bonus. People just ask for it, he'll give it. Unless he says specifically before that he won't. But most of the time he'll just give it, man. So that's cool of him to do. Yeah. And then, you know, besides that, there was like a point where Dana like tried to fist bump Max and Ilia. Max understood the fist bump. Ilia did not. I guess they don't fist bump in Spain. I'm talking about this shit. Because Dana tried to do it to Ilia, and then Ilia fucking did one of these. And that was a little weird. I know it's not like that crazy, but it was weird. I felt like I needed to mention that. And yeah, overall, I want to, you know, finish my analysis of this with my main beef, which is with the English translator, who barely fucking translated anything. Like most of the, like sometime he was translating, but I feel like in certain important moments, you have to interject, you have to project, and you have to translate this shit, man. Because the president there, who speaks English and only English, is staring at you. He don't know what the fuck is being said. There are a lot of back and forths between fans and interviewers and the fighters, and it's all in a different fucking language. So we would just like the English fans to understand what is going on in the press conference, because it's only going to build up the hype for the press conference in general. Honorable mentions, Char Bullet was there. He was cool. We had Dan Ige and, you know, Magomed and Rakic had a little back and forth, but not much, and that's respectable. I feel like Rakic could have said some stuff because, like I said before in a previous video, he was really overlooked and has been overlooked for a long time by Magomed Ankalaev, and Magomed just kept talking about Alex, and even in the press conference, talked about just basically walking straight through Rakic and going straight for the belt against Alex. So I think Rakic, you know, this is Rakic's time to shine, and it would be a huge win if he was to beat Magomed Ankalaev. I don't think he'll beat Magomed Ankalaev. I think Magomed will beat Rakic. You know, I think there was an opportunity there for Rakic to do something with that. And then lastly, there was also an opportunity for Khamzat. Like, you know, going back to Khamzat, man, like I feel like he could have really said more and did more to get into Whittaker's head a bit, because as strong as Robert Whittaker is, he's a legend. Robert Whittaker is a legend, great striking, bona fide, you know, UFC star, definitely going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame. I feel like you can get into his head. Like, I feel like he's a fighter where you can do that to him. And certain things can get to him. And I feel like Khamzat could have really did that. He could have really kept Whittaker guessing, especially if, like, you know, we saw him arrive in Abu Dhabi. He had the full haircut. He looked real peaceful and, you know, humble and all this other stuff. And I feel like Khamzat could have showed up to the press conference, shaved head, screaming, everything like that. Because Khamzat did scream during the face-off, and that's what I'm saying. We're getting glimpses of the OG Khamzat, but I don't know if he's still there. We have to wait till Saturday to really see. But after the face-off with Robert Whittaker, Khamzat, look at it. Khamzat looks right to the fucking audience and goes, "Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!" And that's, you know, that's classic Khamzat with the screaming. Like, I want to see him scream more and embrace that energy he used to have, because it doesn't look like it's there anymore. So we have to wait and see, and that's really it. Max Holloway, again, boring. Pissed me off with that. I feel like he really could have had some back and forth with Ilia. It was up to Ilia to really bring it out of him, and Ilia did. So props to Ilia. He was a star of the show, and that's really it. Some crazy moments, and basically maybe this UFC press conference ranks like a bit above par. But yeah, that's my full take on what just happened about 3 hours ago, UFC 308 press conference. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you on the next.